Hello everyone, welcome back to evansa.study skills. Today we are going to look on the chapter, study the chapter, the Locomotion and Movement, class 11 biology chapter. So let's get started. So this is a mind map that I have prepared for this chapter. Basically, we are the other in this chapter, the locomotion, the movement, some of the subtopics which is there inside the chapter is actually got deleted. So only the ones I'm focusing right now is the skeletal system. So I'll zoom it a bit. So what is skeletal system basically? Skeletal system is consists of framework of bones and a few cartilages. Now the skeletal system helps in the movement of the body, and these bones and cartilages are the specialized cells in the skeletal system. Now the bones have a very hard matrix due to calcium salts, and the cartilage have a very pliable matrix due to the chondroitin salts. Now, the skeletal system is made up of 206 bones, and in the adult body, it is 206 bones, while in a baby's body, it is 300 bones in total. Now, the skeletal system is divided into, three subtopics. That is, it is grouped into two principal divisions. That is, axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. And then the disorders of muscular and skeletal system. Then we have the joints. So these three subtopics are coming under skeletal system. So we can go to the two principal divisions. That is the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Now, axial skeleton. This is the axial skeleton. Axial skeleton is what? Axial skeleton. It is it is in total of 80 bones distributed along the main axis of the body. Now, this axial skeleton is of four. It's comprised of four. That is the skull, the vertebral column, the sternum, and the ribs. Now the skull is totally of 22 bones, and the skull has a large hole called the foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord, after emerging from the brain, continues into the vertebral column. Now, with the help of two occipital condyles, the skull region joined with the superior region of the vertebral column. And the human skull is also known as the dicondylic because it has two occipital condyles. So sometimes in exams they might ask, why is human skull also known as dicondylic? It's because it has two occipital condyles. Now, vertebral column. Vertebral column protects the spinal cord and supports the head and serves as a point of attachment for the ribs and the musculature of the back. Now, in total, there are 26 bones in the vertebral column. Now, the vertebrae extends from the base of the skull and constitutes the main framework of the trunk. Now, each vertebrae has a neural canal through which the spinal cord passes. The first vertebrae is called the atlas, and the second vertebrae is called the axis. Now, the first vertebrae that is the atlas, and it articulates with the occipital condyle. The atlas and the axis helps in the movement of the head. So which two vertebrae helps in the movement of the head? The atlas and the axis. Now, in adults, the sacral and the coccygeal vertebrae units to form the sacrum and the coccyx. So the sacral and the coccygeal vertebrae unites to form the sacrum and the coccyx. So that is in adults. Now we have the sternum. Sternum is what? Sternum is just a flat bone on the ventral midline of the thorax. Sternum is what? It is a flat bone on the ventral midline of the thorax. Then we have the ribs. Ribs is what? Ribs is, there are total pairs of ribs. There are 12 pairs of ribs. But in total, if you're saying there are 24, because 12 plus 12 twos are 24, because both the sides, if you're saying, it is 24 in total. So ribs are flat, thin bones connected dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to sternum. Now the ribs are also called bicephalic because each rib have two articulation surfaces and its dorsal end. Now this thoracic vertebrae, ribs and the sternum form together the rib cage. So how does a rib cage gets formed? It gets formed when the thoracic vertebrae, ribs and the sternum together form the rib cage. Now the rib cage protects the heart and the lungs. So the function of rib cage is that it protects the heart and the lungs. Now we can see that in axial skeleton, in the first one, the skull, it is of again three, that is the cranial, facial, and the middle ear. So the cranial bones are, it is of three bones, that is the cranial, facial, and the middle ear. And then the middle ear is again divided into three bones, that is the malleus, incus, and the stapes. Now the cranial bones are 8 in number and forms a hard protective covering called cranium for the brain. So cranial bones are 8 in number and forms a hard protective covering called the cranium for the brain. Now we have the facial bones. Facial bones, total number of bones is 14, forming the front part of the brain. And facial bone also have a U-shaped bone called as the hyoid bone, and it is present at the base of the buccal cavity. So the hyoid bone is present at the base of the buccal cavity, and the hyoid bone shape is U-shaped. Then we have the middle ear. Middle ear is what? Middle ear consists of the malleus, incus, and the stapes, collectively called the ear ossicles. So middle ear, it consists of malleus, incus, and stapes, and these collectively are known as what? Ear ossicles. Then we have then what we have? Yeah. Then we have vertebral column. So in vertebral column, it is of 5 bones. That is the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Now cervical is of totally it is of 7 bones, and the number of cervical vertebrae are 7 in almost all mammals, including the humans. So if I say how many cervical vertebrae is there for a giraffe, what will be your answer? As it has a long neck, what will be your answer when I ask a question that the number of cervical vertebrae in the giraffe, total number of cervical vertebrae in a giraffe is what? If you are like how many bones are there? If I ask you, what will be your answer? You might say a long number. I mean, you might say a huge number, right? Maybe like 12 or 13 or 14 or whatever, and what so. But the fact is that as you have read here, the number of cervical vertebrae are 7 in almost mammals, including humans. As you know, the giraffes are mammals. Its cervical vertebrae is also 7 only, but their cervical vertebrae, each cervical vertebrae is quite bigger than our than compared to us humans, but still they also have only 7 cervical vertebrae. Now next is thoracic. Thoracic number of bones is 12. Thoracic is number of bones is 12. Then we have lumbar. Lumbar is number of bones is 5. Then sacral number of bones is only 1, like 1 fused. So sacral is actually only one bone is there, but it is fused. Then coccygeal also same thing only. Number of bones is 1 only, but it is fused. Then we have sternum. Sternum, before I said what it is a flat bone on the ventral midline of the thorax. Then we have ribs. Now ribs is of 3 types, that is the true ribs, false ribs, and the floating ribs. Now, the true ribs means the first 7 pairs of the ribs are called true ribs. Now, it is dorsally attached to thoracic vertebrae and ventrally attached to sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage. So it is dorsally attached to thoracic vertebrae and ventrally attached to the sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage. Now, false ribs. False ribs is what the 8th, 9th, 10th pairs of the ribs does not join directly with the sternum. Instead, they join the 7th rib with the help of hyaline cartilage. Now, the false rib is also known as the vertebrochondral ribs. Chondral ribs. They might ask, what false rib is also known as what rib? That what it is? Vertebral, no, not vertebral, vertebrochondral ribs. That is known as false ribs. False ribs, which are all of the false ribs? The 8th, 9th, 10th pairs of ribs. Then we have the floating ribs. Now, the floating ribs, these are the 11th and the 12th pairs of ribs. 11th and the 12th pairs of ribs are called floating ribs. Why? Because they are not connected ventrally. So, the 11th and the 12th pairs of ribs are called floating ribs because they are not connected ventrally. Now, this is what axial skeleton comprises of. Now, we will go to appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton. To talk about appendicular skeleton, it is of three. It is comprised of three sections, sub topics. That is the bones of the forelimb, that is a hand, and bones of the hind limb, that is a leg, and they are supporting girdle bones. They're supporting girdle bones. These are the ones which is coming. Then what we have? So here under bones of forelimb, that is a hand, we have the humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, that is the wrist bones, metacarpals, that is the palm bones, and the phalanges. So there is only one humerus, one radius, one ulna, and carpals, that is the wrist bones, is of 8 in number totally, and metacarpals, that is the palm bones, it is of 5. Number of bones, it is 5, and then phalanges, it is always 14. It is always 14. That is, in appendicular skeleton, there are totally of 126 bones, and appendicular skeleton includes the bones of the limbs and their supporting girdles. Each limb consists of 30 bones. So the forelimb, the bones of the forelimbs, if we count the total of this, it will become 30 bones. Here also, if you count the total, it is 30 bones. The remaining 6 bones form the girdle bones. That is, girdle bones. This girdle bones is the remaining 6 bones. That is a girdle bones. But in total, it is what? It is 126 bones. Are there? Yeah, so that is our appendicular skeleton. Now, this is a forelimb. So, for bones of the forelimb, that is a hand, consists of the humerus, the radius, the ulna, the carpal, that is a breastbone, which is of number of bones is 8. Metacarpals, that is a palm bone, it is of number of bones is 5. Phalanges, it is number of bones is 14. Now we have the bones of the hind limbs. Bones of the hind limbs means legs. So bones of the leg is what? It is femur, that is a thigh bone. There's only one. Both of the sides like that. There is thigh bone, there is tibia and fibula, there is tarsals, that is the ankle bone, that is number of bones is 7, and we have metatarsals, that is also number of bones is 5, and phalanges in this also it is 14. Phalanges in the bones of hind limb also it is 14. Then we have patella. Patella is the kneecap. Kneecap, it's found on the ventral side of the knee. So patella is a kneecap, is known as a kneecap, which is found on the ventral side of the knee. Now we have the girdle bones. Yes, okay. We have the girdle bones. Now, girdle bones is of 2 girdles, that is the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle. Pectoral girdle means shoulder girdle. So pectoral, not pectoral, sorry. Pectoral girdle means shoulder girdle, and pelvic girdle means hip girdle. Now, pectoral girdle is each half of the pectoral girdle consists of a flat, large, triangular scapula and a covered, slender clavicle called the collarbone. Now, the scapula is situated between the second and the seventh ribs on the dorsal. It is actually not on T, it's actually on the. I forgot to press this space bar. So on the dorsal side of the thorax, then the scapula has a slightly elevated ridge called the spine, which projects as a flat expanded process called the acromion. So this word acromion is coming under pectoral girdle. Sometimes they can ask in this match the following and all. Sometimes where there's they'll give this acromion, and in block A, and then in block B they can give pectoral girdle. So we should know that this word acromion comes under the pectoral girdle. Now, below the acromion, there is a cup-shaped cavity called the glenoid cavity. So below the acromion, there is a cup-shaped cavity called the glenoid cavity. Now, this acromion joins with one of the clavicle to form the acromioclavicular joint. So this acromion joins with one of the clavicle to form the acromioclavicular joint, while the other end connects to the upper part of the sternum. Now, the shoulder joint is formed when the humerus fits into the glenoid cavity. So, how is the shoulder joint formed? The shoulder joint is formed when the humerus fits into the glenoid cavity. Now, the pectoral girdle plays an important role in the movement of arms. So, what is the function, or what role does a pectoral girdle play in a human body? It helps in the movement of the arms. That is what is coming under pectoral girdle. Now we have pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle is what? The two halves of the pelvic girdle. Now pelvic girdle, what? Pelvic is means hip. So hip girdle. Now the two halves of the pelvic girdle meet ventrally to form the pubic symphysis containing fibrous cartilage. So the two halves of the pelvic girdle meet ventrally to form it is not tall, it's actually two. It's when I'm typing, it comes like that. So it is actually not tall, it's two. So the pelvic girdle meets ventrally to form the pubic symphysis containing fibrous cartilage. Now the pelvic girdle supports the limb bones and also protects the abdominal organs like the reproductive organs and the urinary tract. So what does the pelvic girdle do? Like what is the function of the pelvic girdle? Pelvic girdle in a human body, it supports the limb bones and also protects the abdominal organs like the reproductive organs and the urinary tract. Now, the female pelvis is wider than the male pelvis to facilitate the childbirth. So, they might given the exams. Why is the female pelvis wider than the male pelvis? Because it is to facilitate the childbirth. That is the reason why the female pelvis is wider than the male pelvis. Now, then this pelvic girdle has another subsection called the coxal bones, that is the hip bones. So the coxal bones, there are two coxal bones, and each coxal bone consists of three bones, that is the ilium, ischium, and pubis. So there is two coxal bones, and each coxal bones has ilium, ischium, and pubis. Now the ilium, ischium, and pubis fuse together. They fuse together to form what? A cavity called the acetabulum. This ilium, ischium, and pubis fuse together to form the acetabulum. So this acetabulum is the region where the head and the femur, that is the head of the femur, that is the thigh bone, is fixed. So where is acetabulum? So the one thing is that in another this also might ask in match the followings and all, like in block B or block A it would have be, it is given like acetabulum, and in block B it is given as pelvic girdle. So what it is, we need to match it with the pelvic girdle. Acetabulum needs to be matched with pelvic girdle because this word comes under pelvic girdle. And acromion, where it comes under pectoral girdle, and acetabulum comes under pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle is has coxal bones, that is hip bones, which is of two bones, and this coxal bone consists of three bones, that is ilium, ischium, and pubis. And this ilium, ischium, and pubis fuse together to form a cavity called the acetabulum. And this acetabulum is a region where the head of the femur, that is a thigh bone, is fixed. Now these are the two principal divisions of the skeletal system. Now we'll go to the joints. Now joints. Now, what is joints? Joints are the point at which two bones and a bone, two bones or a bone and a cartilage make contact with. Now, it helps in the movement of the bony parts in our body as well as in locomotion. And the move ability of a joint depends on the force exerted by the muscles, weight, and act of fulcrum. So, the move of ability of a joint. So, this is actually a main point. Questions might come regarding this point. That is, the move of a joint depends on the force exerted by the muscles, weight, and act of fulcrum. Now, this joint is of three bones, three bones. That is consists of three bones. That is a fibrous joints, the cartilaginous joints, and the synovial joints. So these are the three bones. Then fibrous joints is what? It also known as the immovable joints. Fibrous joints cannot be moved. Fibrous joints cannot be moved. So it do not allow any movement. Fibrous joints do not allow any movement. And this type of joint is shown by the flat skull bones, which fuse end to end with the help of dense fibrous connective tissues in then form of sutures to form the cranium. Then we have cartilaginous joints. Cartilaginous joints is what? It is the bones involved are joined with the help of cartilage. Bones involved in the cartilaginous joints are joined with the help of cartilage. Now, cartilaginous joints can be seen in between the adjacent vertebrae in the vertebral column, and it only permits limited movements. So the cartilaginous joints can be seen between the adjacent vertebrae in the vertebral column, and it only permits limited movements. So here in the fibrous joints there is no movement. In cartilaginous joints it only permits limited movements. And in synovial joints is characterized by the presence of the fully filled synovial cavity between the joining surfaces of two bones. There is a considerable movement. So here there is a considerable movement. Here it only permits a limited movement, and here there is no movement at all. In fibrous joints, no movement. Cartilaginous joints, only limited movement. Here it is a considerable movement. Then what? Then synovial joints help in locomotion and other movements. Now, synovial joints is a joint that helps in the locomotion and other movements. Now, synovial joints is of 5 types. That is the ball and socket joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, gliding joint, and saddle joint. Ball and socket joint means between is situated between the humerus and the pectoral girdle. Hinge joint is the knee joint. Hinge joint is the knee joint, and the pivot joint is between the atlas and the axis. Pivot joint is between the atlas and the axis, and the girdle joint is between the carpals, and the saddle joint is between the carpals and the metacarpals of the thumb. So this is what comes under the joints. Then we have the disorders of muscular and skeletal system. So what comes under disorder of muscular and skeletal system is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are six disorders of muscular and skeletal system. So first is myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disorder affecting neuromuscular junction leading to fatigue, weakening, and paralysis of skeletal muscle. Then we have muscular dystrophy. It is a progressive degeneration of skeletal muscle, mostly due to genetic disorder. Then we have tetany. Tetany is a rapid spasms in muscular due to the low calcium in the blood flowing. Then we have arthritis. It is an inflammation of joints, and we have osteoporosis. It is actually an age-related disorder characterized by decreased bone mass and increased chances of fractures. And the decreased levels of estrogen is the common cause. And this disorder is actually mostly seen in women's. Then we have gout. That is, gout is actually the inflammation of joints due to the accumulation of uric acid crystals. So that is all there in the chapter locomotion and movement. Locomotion and movement. And for class 11, in this locomotion and movement, we only need to study the subtopic, that is the skeletal system. And please make sure to learn the skeletal system, the parts, that is what was it, that is a frontal bone, occipital condyle, hyoid bone, then ethmoid bone. Those bones are there, no? Mandible, not mandible, yeah, not mandible, was it mandible, yeah, mandible, then maxilla, those bones and all. We need to learn it like by heart. You need to know those diagrams. Even if you don't know how to draw those diagrams, you need to at least know those where and all it is located. These words which I just said now, like for example, true ribs, where it is located, false ribs, where it is located, floating ribs, where it is located, these and all you need to know. So you need to learn, learn the label diagrams of the ribs, the skull, then what, the vertebral column, then the hind limbs and the forelimbs. These all label diagrams you need to learn for this chapter, the locomotion and movement. So this is actually a short ad promotion going to happen right now. So I've done this mind map using an app called the JIT Mind. The JIT Mind we can get in any laptops, I guess, because I'm not sure about Apple laptops, but mine is an Android one. So it is Asus. And I download this app from Microsoft Store. We can get this in this Microsoft Store by just typing the app name, that is a JitMind. In this app, actually, we can make a lot of mind maps and flowcharts where we can get a lot of templates regarding varieties of topics, such as FIFA World Cup or project management process or essay writing process, elements of a story, or anything, verb types, product plans, new product launch, or Pomodoro technique, or anything, programming projects, anything. Or even though if you don't want any of these, you can actually create your own. We can create new ones, and and we can share it to the people if you want to share to, and if you don't want anything, we can actually delete it also. And it's a very good like mind map creator that I would suggest a lot. It's actually very good. I've been trying this app for past 6 months right now, but it's a very good app. um so, and we have this, we can buy, there is a monthly packages also, like where we can buy stuff. We can buy some tools and all, like unlimited files, unlimited notes, all platforms, and priority support, and all these things. We have lots of package like back to school sale, annual scale, monthly. Yeah, all of these packages are there. And that's all about this JitMind app, and this can be downloaded in the Microsoft Store.